Hello and welcome back to Yapping with me, Fellonius the Wizard. Is this number 220? In an earlier yapping I was talking about books on a shelf, and there's a special place for those. Yes, it's called the library. And if there is anything that I really love in every city, town, village, wherever I go, it's usually the library. If I want to feel safe or just at home, I go to the library. And it has been like that for, I don't know, very long time. The library was actually the first place that I was allowed to go to by myself. I can't be more than 7 or 8. And I was allowed to go there because it was a very short way away. Just up a hill, down a street, and like 2 blocks away. And it was a very small town, so it was okay. And I went there and just went around, and I loved being inside it. And it was, if it was autumn, fall, if it was raining, if it was dark, I totally loved going back and forth. Now, I didn't borrow that many books at the time. I just had 1 or 2 because I was a slow reader in the beginning. But I was reading, and it was actually my father and my mother who taught me that reading books is a very good way of just keeping up to your brain's standard or something like that. So I went there, and then I should be tested, I should say, because that's what happened. Once my parents asked me if I wanted to learn how to play an organ. And I was going, what? An organ? Why should I be playing any music at all? We are not a playing music family. We don't sing, we play records, of course, but that's not really the same thing. So I said, well, why not? Let's try it. And I got myself one of those very small, I think it was even battery operated, and a course in organ grinding, or sort of. Well, it's like a piano lesson. And you had, if I'm not totally mistaken, I had to put the keys, the notes down on the keys, because C, D, E, F, G, H, A, H was a bit of a hustle to remember the G, A, H, Z. So I was going, okay, I can't really see that. What I now know is that the black keys is actually showing you where the C keys start and end. Thank you, lesson number 1. I did not learn that. So I went with my big box, because it was big for me. I might have been 9 years by then. Went through the fall back to the library, and we had the first 2 lessons. And I could not learn anything. I couldn't learn anything. But just walking back and forth, I was so pleased with that. Yet another thing that I could do by myself. And it was the library. And on the way back and forth, there was a hazelnut bush. And sometimes you could pick some hazelnuts. I mean, I haven't seen hazelnuts in ages. So that would be nice to see again. This place is down in south of Sweden. And I went down for real, just to make sure that I wasn't missing out on anything, to see all the old streets and all the stuff from back then. And I actually parked my car pretty close to where I lived, went down to the places where I lived. Man, was it small. Back in my days, it was so far between that corner and that corner. How come it's only like 3-4 steps? Well, it's not. It was, well, growing up, you have a better vision of how it really is. But as a kid, we were running back and forth. We were playing the Beatles. We were trying to use planks and all that. So, yeah. So I went all the way to the library. But the library wasn't exactly where I thought it was. But as soon as I came close to it, I recognized the building. And by golly, it's still the library. It's still the same place, and I think it's repainted. It's more white now than it was back then. I have a slow remembrance of brownish building, but no. And it was all those stairs down. Oh man, I could have cried. That is the library that I really, really love. But it was beaten. It was beaten. Next step, we moved out in the country, and there was no way I could get to a proper library by myself. I had to do that during school hours. And then we moved again, and now we finally got to a place where I was living more or less for 28 years in the vicinity of, I could say. So, and there was a lady called Iris. And Iris was holding on to the library. It wasn't just her, but it was Iris I met first time. And we spoke a lot, and she was a very nice lady. And I was so enjoying myself that I usually just went around and started to read books in the library, not taking them home. I was reading them. And then I borrowed a couple of them. But now I am up at, well, let's say 6 to 8 books a week, or at least a 2-week notice. So yeah, Iris and me, we talked a lot. And then I stopped school at 15 years of age. And my first work was a metal factory. We were doing stuff for the locomotives, actually, the ASEA locomotives. And it seems that back then Iris' husband was the manager of that business, and he was just as good, just as great. Okay, he was a man, so he had a bit of a up nose for things, but he taught me a lot of stuff as well. So he was, in fact, the real life library. And then I went to his wife in the evenings and borrowed books. It felt like I had a new family. So actually, I can wrap up this one. The library is my family. I have been to so many libraries, and every time I'm in a library, I always feel like home. I have had very strange things happening to me while I'm in a library. At one point I was actually doing some sort of recycling. We were writing our own pieces, and then we were reading them out loud on a culture evening of sorts. And that was in the library. Very strange library back in Falun. Yeah, but it still felt like home, because around me I had people that I knew, that I was liking. And yeah, if you ever want to see a very relaxed Fellonius the Wizard, you should just make appointed with me in a library, and I will be so soft and cuddly so you can't even start to think. Oh dear, I don't want to ask you, but I hope that you have had at least some sort of good memories from a library. I know actually of one who's still working at the library. I think you do, right? Yeah, but still. Thank you for listening, and bye for today.